I'm Tracy Gray, real estate investor, and I'm here in Edmonton, Alberta with my husband and investment partner, as well as professional real estate agent Devin Gray. He's with
Baby
EXP
daddy.
Mogul, Mogul Realty. Yeah, you got it. Mogul Realty Group. Woo woo. And then making the sassy remarks down in Phoenix, Arizona,
Is the
and
very
the
shy.
Scottsdale area, very shy, is Diane Brennan, and she is with Coldwell Banker, and she is a professional real estate agent down there that can help you get set up in the investment property or the home of your dreams. I've got the two of them with me here today to talk about some very exciting stuff that's happening in real estate.
Yeah, and prior to us starting up, Diane, you were telling us about a great new concept. So why don't you share? Because it sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, when we got connected, I was like, you guys, I have to tell you about this new great information for your investors that I'm learning about. It's an idea that's been around a long time, but I don't think it's well known outside the aviation community. So I'm learning about crash pads and hot pads, and it has to do with serving the aviation community, flight attendants, and pilots. So in this industry, a lot of people have, let's say, okay, I'm going to say, for example, I am living in Phoenix, Arizona. You guys are in Edmonton. Let's say I get a job in the aviation industry as a flight attendant, and I get based in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, I have a mortgage here in Phoenix that I need to take care of. I mean, I could rent it out or whatnot, but my life's here, so I can't up and move. So a lot of people in the aviation industry commute, and they're called commuters. So what they'll do is they'll rent a crash pad at their home base, and they're not always there. So if you're flying and the whole crew, goes and has a layover, the company takes care of that. But what the company doesn't take care of is when you have to commute to your base. So let's say to make sure, and all these people fly on standby, flight attendants and pilots to get there. I think the pilots don't have to fly on standby, but the flight attendants do. So they'll come in the night before to make sure that they can make their shift for the next day because they have to be on time. So they need a place to stay. There's a crew room in the airport, but that's not very nice. That's not, great. There's also hotels, but an even better deal is crash pads. So what these investors are doing is turning homes into rentals for the aviation industry. And it's a little different because you can have 20 people renting the property for 1 month, and that can be pretty lucrative. So because everybody's on different schedules, you can have your tenants not even see each other. So what they'll do is they'll put bunk beds in rooms. Not everybody's sleeping there at the same time because everyone's off on different days and flying on different days. So they're paying anywhere between like 250 and 500 a month, and you could have 20 people renting. You could have 10 bunk beds in one room, 10 bunk beds in another, and you could have 20 people, paying, let's $300 for 1 month. So it's an interesting thing to invest in. And you have a tenant that, let's say, is not always there and very flight attendant. They have a great reputation too. So it's a good tenant. Questions?
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
lots of questions.
yeah, for
Like,
sure.
wow.
It's great to focus on a particular niche clientele. You know that all the same people are in the same industry, so they're quality tenants. Probably one of the best things that I think about it, I mean, not along with just the steady income and various things like that, is there's not a lot of wear and tear on the property.
Right.
I think that some of our best tenants for long-term rentals have been those that are working in the oil patch, say 2 weeks out of every month. Well, you know that the house is sitting vacant for 2 weeks out of every four, so that's a lot less wear and tear. And so from this standpoint, people are not necessarily, they'll be using kitchens and various things like that, and probably using all the benefits of having that condo or that home as a crash pad, but ultimately it's more of a hotel use. It's not something where people are staying there for a long period of time. So that sounds really good. You can get really dialed in. There's a constant significant access to the same people. I'm sure some people will see their location change every now and then. I mean, that happens in the airline industry, but you'll be able to pick somebody else up in that. So yeah, that sounds like a great concept. And as you said, it's been around for a long time. This isn't necessarily anything new, but I imagine that unless you're actually looking for this concept, it's not really going to be something that the general public is going to know about.
Yeah, and you have extra costs because you'll have to have a cleaner. You'll have to furnish it, have the internet and all that stuff. And you also want storage for everyone so that if they are renting, for a month, because you can have cold beds and hot beds. And what that means is a cold bed is when someone rents that bed, nobody else can sleep in it. But there's also a hot bed that it could be someone different every night if someone just wants to rent it for the night kind of thing. So you'd need someone to go in there, change the sheets, all that stuff. You'd also need storage for everybody who's renting per month or 6 months or whichever, so that they can put their stuff, have an area to store their belongings and their food and different stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has a short-term rental Airbnb feel to it. In fact, that yes, you need furnished rental, you need to have cleaning, but then you're catering to the uniqueness of, as you said, you want storage. People aren't there necessarily for long periods of time, but at the same time, they want to rent it over a long period of time. They're just not necessarily there all the time. So. Have you investigated much in regards to first couple of steps in regards to how to, because getting the property would be relatively easy. It's getting dialed into the industry to announce, hey, and is that kind of the industry official term, a crash pad? Is that what they?
Yeah, it's a crash pad. Yeah, and so they want easy access to the airport. So a bonus is having transportation that can take them from the property to the airport, being close to a bus line or a train or whichever. So look for properties that are really close to the airport and large rooms so that you can fit the bunk beds in. I know Boston is at a real, and New York, those bases for flight attendants, there's actually is tough because they get snapped up quickly. And there's also the opportunity to have long-term rentals as well, for that industry. There's different websites you can advertise on and advertise your property on very reasonably, and join different Facebook groups to get your property advertised. But there's definitely markets in the US that are really hurting they need more housing, this type of housing.
Right. Yeah, it's a fantastic concept. Before we started recording, and when you were first mentioning this, it did remind me of looking at opportunities with specific industries, and so something that our company in Vancouver, our Mogul Vancouver office has been quite successful with is Vancouver's a real hotbed for the movie making industry, and I think that a lot of people don't really recognize how significant. Just was talking to an investor that's looking to come out in Edmonton, and he's a carpenter, and he's talking about like, what are the movies that you work on? Have I heard of them? He's like, yeah, like all the Jurassic World movies and the last Brad Pitt movie. I mean, these are major movies, and so there's tremendous amounts of crews that are coming up from California, and so what's actually a big industry in Vancouver is renting out furnished rentals. Especially condos to the director and the producers and the actors and all the stuff. They're coming in for, say, maybe a 2.5 month stint. They don't want to stay in a hotel. They want something really, really nice. And so there's quite a market there for selling furnished rentals that will cater to people that are looking to come and be there for 2.5 months, specifically catering to the movie industry. And so
and it's not just the directors and actors. There's a whole crew. Like if you ever watch the credits at the end of the movie, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of names, sometimes thousands of names on it. So it's not just a handful of actors and directors. There's lots of people involved.
Yeah, and unlike this crash pad concept, which I'm sure there's a great opportunity in a less busy airport like Edmonton as opposed to Atlanta or Boston. The Vancouver movie industry concept is very specific. Obviously, that wouldn't be something that would work in Edmonton, but the concept that you brought up about the crash pad made me think about sitting down and saying, okay, what are different industries that have a lot of people flying in and out, and that being able to cater specifically to that person. I do know that there are some people that have Airbnbs that focus on the oil and gas industry in Edmonton, which is obviously a major industry here in Alberta, where people will fly in from Texas, and they'll be up here for 90 days or 120 days, and they want a place to stay. And so rather than just kind of promoting their Airbnb specific to, kind of in general, they're dialed in on catering to that specific industry. So it just sounds like it'd be worthwhile to sit down. I love the crash pad idea, and definitely
I like the name of it.
everybody could be shopping near airports to look for opportunities like that and catering those properties specific to that industry. But there must be other industries out there that would do the same. How have you investigated further in regards to how would you tap into that specific industry in terms of catering to pilots and flight attendants? Excuse me.
Yeah, there's a number of websites and Facebook groups that you can advertise your property on.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you can just join the Facebook groups and then get connected that way. So it's really, really easy. And I think if you're not close to the airport and you have a property, if you offer, a shuttle or you could even offer transportation to the airport included in there, just make it as easy for them as possible. That would be great. So if we're looking at different ways too, we also have a big business here, and I don't know what it's like in Canada, of traveling nurses. So they need temporary housing that's furnished as well.
And I wouldn't even,
know
why
that, yeah.
why do nurses need to travel? I wouldn't even have thought about that being a thing.
Oh, well, they get a lot of temporary positions at different hospitals. It's actually a career. You can be a traveling nurse. So not only internationally, but locally as well, for hospitals that need and offices that need extra help.
Wow.
So that must be a US thing.
Again, well, and you know what? It probably is up here as well. I guess we've got teachers in our family, and so we've talked a lot about the benefits and the challenges being a substitute teacher. But I know some people that it's basically their full-time job of being a substitute teacher, because teachers get sick all the time, and there's deaths in their family and various things that cause them to not be able to be at work. So you need substitute teachers. I'm sure it's the same situation with nurses, where basically, if certain people are short-staffed because of whatever happens to those nurses, and there's nobody else that's a regular nurse that could fill in, I'm sure they probably reach out to these traveling nurses to fill those spots. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, and they're
But it makes
short.
sense.
Yeah, they're short contracts. So, and it's very, very
Yeah.
lucrative for the nurses. It's really, really good money for them. So,
Yeah, well, and then as well, if for somebody that wants to be a nurse and wants to travel, I suppose that's checking a couple of boxes in regards to, I'm going to go live in Boston for 2 months on this contract, and then I'm going to move to New York for 3 months or something like that. Is that what you're saying? How it works?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's to fill in for, sick nurses per se, because they're usually several month contracts. So
Yeah.
I think it's actually cheaper for the hospital to do that rather than hire someone full-time in that position, or the hospital gets to a point where they could hire someone full-time. So that's why they kind of utilize these traveling nurses.
In Alberta, an idea for that might be for guys that work on the rigs, guys and women, because we've actually had a few tenants that were like that, where they would be out on the rigs all the time, and then they're not necessarily looking for a full-time residence in Edmonton, but a crash pad, I think, would be something that might suit that industry as well.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure Fort Mac has a lot of those too. So
Yeah, although a lot of people from Fort Mac come down to Edmonton for shopping and visiting family and that, so.
well, and vice versa. I know a lot of Edmontonians that go. I mean, I worked in Fort Mac for a little while before I moved
That's right. Yes,
to the
you
US.
did.
Yeah. So you just find a roommate and go that way. But crazy Fort McMurray. Yeah.
Well, that's a great concept. Absolutely. So
Yeah, and I guess the
so
main
there-
message is, it's not just a renter. You can be an investor and do a variety of different things and provide housing to a niche group of people. So it kind of lowers your risk for crazy tenants.
I was thinking about, I was thinking about
How do I
that,
put that
obviously-
diplomatically?
Yeah.
Well, we were renters once together, Diane.
Yeah,
so
that's why we have to.
And Tracy keeps telling me all the crazy stories of everything you did. So
Just a couple floods,
I omit a few details, just a few. Yeah.
I never would have rented to you three.
No,
Yes.
4.
When
It
we're
ended up
talking
with
about
4.
Or there you go, right off the bat, you're overpopulating the property.
Well, we had one that just wouldn't leave, right, Trace? So we had one one roommate that just kind of just stayed.
Didn't pay rent. Just
Yeah,
like to hang
probably
out.
wasn't on the lease. which
Wasn't
is
on
like
the
a
lease.
major
You know what
taboo.
drove the whole situation even worse was our roommate Fraser, who was a saint and trying to go to school at the time that Tracy and I worked
So
in
good.
radio, and we were young, and Ezzy's was fun on Tuesdays and Goose Loonies on Thursdays and Thunderdome on Friday and Saturday. Like, yeah, oh my gosh. So yeah, and then we tended to entertain, large parties at times. So yeah. Now as an owner, there's payback and karma. So I have gotten that
That's
from
right. Yeah,
myself for
because
my
what I was starting to say is being a landlord now, I can definitely tell stories from a landlord's point of view, but I also have them from a renter's point of view. So I maybe am a bit more lenient for some of our renters because I've been there to, or maybe I'm a
exactly.
little firmer. I don't
We
know.
didn't get kicked out, did we?
No,
Like,
no.
yeah, okay.
Surprisingly,
So we weren't that bad. The
really should
flood.
have. No,
So we had a drunk.
I think we were delightful.
We were
That's what it was.
delightful. Yeah. We had
We were.
an issue where, my bathroom, no one was supposed to use it because we were having plumbing issues with the toilet. So you have a choice when you're young. It's either money for booze or money to fix your plumbing.
For
And it always
plumbers.
goes to booze. So, or fun going out.
You can always
Which,
go to the bathroom at the bar.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
right.
could always go to use Tracy's bathroom or Fraser's. So we each had our own bathroom. But when we had this party, our fourth roommate had a little too much and she went and used the bathroom. And then she came out and I said, "You didn't use the bathroom." And she goes, "I did." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." You could hear the water just starting to gush out. And she's like, "It's
Boring.
okay. I locked the door." Oh my gosh. So story didn't end well.
Oh
Story
my
didn't end
Fast
well.
forward till we moved out.
That's where it's the neighbors getting sewage or toilet water coming into his
Through their
unit, and he
ceiling.
comes running out and is like, are you guys having a flood? And Tracy swam to the door. She's like, "No, I don't think," we were so worried about getting in trouble.
I had my
Uh,
scuba gear on.
yeah, no, we
So
don't have a problem.
the moral of that story is it's only a flood if you can see it.
Yes, just if you lock the door and can't
If
see
you lock
it.
the door and walk away, it's no longer a flood.
Oh,
No
It's not.
longer a problem. That's how I've lived
as
most
a
of my life.
landlord in me, I'm like, no, it's so painful. It was.
So anyway,
But
yeah.
Diane, you're really selling us on this idea of the crash pads, though, because you get some respectful crew members
Yeah.
that will be renting out the property on a
Yeah.
short-term basis. So that sounds a lot better than our
They
rental
might not even be,
situation.
yeah, they might not even be there for 8 hours. And then too, also in the aviation industry, I've learned that flight attendants are on reserve. So they're on call. So they have to be at their base, just waiting to see if they're called to work or not too. So that's another reason why they need the crash pads and stuff. But yeah, so as investors, there's lots of opportunities and you just kind of have to think about a niche and who you like dealing with as well. So there's something kind of for everyone. Just besides your, hey, let's rent it out and do background checks and all that kind of stuff, just kind of think outside the box. So hopefully we've given
Yeah,
everybody
Love it.
lots of ideas.
very creative.
Sounds very good. Yes, absolutely.
Great. All right. Did you guys have anything else? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up the show. I think
No,
that's good.
if anybody wants to Venmo me $1 million though, I just want to say I'm open.
Yeah, right. Small unmarked bills, we'll always take those.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Diane, why don't you tell everyone how they can get a hold of you?
Sure. My email is can't remember her email at gmail.com. My name's Diane Brennan. I am a realtor with Coldwell Banker here in the Phoenix metro area. My office is located in Scottsdale. I would love to talk to anyone who is interested in possibly investing down here. I can definitely help them out and send them some free information. It's just information, no pressure. My phone number is 602-620-2277.
And if our ex-landlord is watching, do you have a fake number you can send out there for them?
Yeah,
So they can
I'm
find
so
you?
sorry. That's what I want to say. I've
We'll
gotten it
send you
back
a
tenfold with
message.
my tenants, though. If I've gotten it.
Yeah, that's true.
Karma has not
Yeah.
been kind to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to agree on that one. All right. Well, Devin, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm with the Mogul Realty Group and EXP, and my cell number is 780-951-9279. Email is Devin, DEVIN, at mogulrg.com.